Well, it's another interesting Friday night discussion tonight, and I must welcome everybody who is joining us on Facebook and also on YouTube. It is an interesting night, and we're talking on the same topic that we had last week and the week before. We're talking about crime and violence in Jamaica, and but tonight, wherever you are, wherever in the world you are, I think for me it's still evening. It's like 6:30, but tonight we are looking at it from the perspective of the men on the ground, the men and women on the ground. We're looking at it from the perspective of the police, and we have with us to join us soon in our online studio the beautiful Superintendent of Police, Stephanie Lindsey, will be joining us. But before I even let her in the studio, Garwood, Wagwan, Beer Smile. No, you're on mute. You have to take off the mute. Yes, man.
I am here, Erraldo, giving thanks. I am here. Me good. I am very happy to
Wonderful.
have SSP. And I really want to hear from her. You
Look,
know.
when you told me that our guest will be Senior Superintendent of Police, Stephanie Lindsey, boy, I don't know. I
Heard
am
a lot about her. I
honored.
heard that she's a cool
I have
person. So
heard a
maybe she's
lot
going to be a
about
cool
her.
person tonight.
I have listened to a lot of programs with her and she's done a
Yes,
lot. So
yes.
let's pull her in studio. We have tonight joining us, for those who are viewing, we have tonight joining us SSP Stephanie Lindsey. She's senior superintendent of police, and she is the head of the communication unit at the Jamaica Constabulary Force. SSP Lindsey, whoa, it's good to see you. It's good to have you on the program
Great to
this
have you.
evening.
Great to
Good
have
evening,
you.
and thanks for having me. I was telling your producer that I'm actually off, but I made a promise to be on tonight, so I'm here.
Yes.
And I am very much grateful for the fact that you are with us. Before we get into the topic and discuss this is our third week having this discussion of crime and violence. Our first week we had a lawyer on with us, a member from the legal department, talking to us from the legal perspective of crime and violence. Last week was a discussion with Geraldine and myself, Geraldine, who is a clinical psychologist, and so we looked at crime from the from psychology. I know this week I'm super interested and super excited to actually hear about this topic, to discuss this topic with you from the standpoint of being an actual police officer, somebody on the floor, on the ground, who actually do the arrests, who actually have to do the hard jobs. All I do, back in the day when I used to work on radio, is talk about things that people do. No, I'm on the internet doing the same things. It's like this, but you have to do the hard job. And many people are wondering, and I said this last week, that people would say, "What's happening in Jamaica? What are the police doing?" and all of these stuff, and they don't know the hard work that the police force has to go through just to reduce crime. But interestingly, crime and violence has been on the rise during COVID, which we were not necessarily expecting. So those are my opening words. And before I throw it to Geraldine, and then we can have the whole nice discussion with our SSP tonight, I just want to remind everyone that you can go ahead and share this live feed, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tips for Behavior Change, and you can also share this feed if you're watching on Facebook. You can share this feed with other persons, and please be prepared to throw your questions in. And once we see them, we will definitely throw them to SSP Lindsay, and hopefully she'll be able to give us some good answers, which I know for a fact that she
Let's
can
see.
do. Miss
Yes.
Garwood, your opening statement before we do the interaction.
Well, the issue of crime and violence has been a concern for me as a professional from a psychological perspective. Its impact on our children, the nation's children, its impact on the community, especially those who live in the inner city,
Yes.
as we would call it. And so it has always been, you know, a passion of mine to hear from the police in terms of how they are managing this issue, and especially how the church. I think that's one of our questions that we will feel to you tonight, SSP. How the church can help. My being a part of the church as well, would like to know what role the police see us as the faith community playing in helping to um well, I mean, wouldn't eliminate, but I mean, decrease the frequency of the crime and violence situation that is affecting us in our nation. So I want to thank you again for joining us. I've heard a lot about you, and I am just so excited to have you. You come with a lot of good recommendations, high recommendations, and I mean, the nation can see that you're highly respected because there are many persons who will follow you, listen to things, discussion that you're a part of. Yes, and I want to hail you too as a female who have made this landmark in the Jamaica Constabulary force from one female to the next. So, the first question we would like to throw to you this evening is, I mean, what is the current view? What do you think is the current view of the government's approach to crime and violence in the nation at this time?
Okay, so good evening to you and good evening to your listeners and your viewers. And I just want to thank you for affording me the opportunity to share in your program and to talk about this very important topic of crime and violence, and more so violence in our society. So you asked me about the government's view. I am going to give the view from a policing standpoint, because you know that the Jamaica Constabulary Force, we are an extension of the government by virtue of being the premier and sole law enforcement agency in this country. We are fully funded and supported by the government of Jamaica. But I must say that it's very promising, the direction that things are going. I know that there are a couple of things that a police force really need in order to be effective. We need the legislative support, and we
Mm-hmm.
also need the necessary resources to carry out those tasks. And I see some good signals, some efforts being made to provide the legislative support and framework. Because if you don't have proper laws that is in sync with the consequences to deal with the current crime situation, then we have challenges. We see where a lot of effort is being made on the part of the government to provide resources, proper working, a common working facility, fit for purpose vehicles. There's stuff. I mean, we don't have everything that we need, but I think where we're at now, we're seeing good effort being made to ensure that the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the members can function effectively.
Good response, SSP. I was going to say, what a lovely response. But before we even get into the second question, I just want to, maybe I'm a big fan here, but I know for a fact that when I was in Jamaica, I'm sure I listened to RGR, I believe on a Thursday, to hear the program, the police officers. Are you on that program as well, Superintendent?
There's a program. I used to be on it regularly with Diane, so nowadays I come
Yeah,
on as a guest because I
cause
have
I
all the other. Yes, I
because
used to
I
be back
listened to
in the
that
day.
program. GG, I listened to that program. I knew I worked at Love FM, but I listened to our certain program on RJ. I listened to it religiously, and that was one of them. So I'm here
Balancing
talking with
Justice with Andre Earl and us.
balancing justice. Yes, that's it. So I'm here talking with a superstar, from national radio in Jamaica. Uh, I remember we asked this very same question that we asked you. We asked a lawyer, and she gave us a response that blew us away. And she said, "The government is confused, just as though we are confused." Um, in the first episode, we have our guest co-host, counseling psychologist, with us at that time, and she said something that was really profound. She said, "We cannot create a crime plan without having different members of the society on the board of creating that crime plan. In other words, you can't just have a bunch of legislators. It would be good to have someone from the JCF, someone from the Jamaica Association of Psychologists, someone like Gigi, who is a trained psychologist for years, a pastor, a theologian, a sociologist, and stuff like that. And so the question was, not the question, but the statement was, the government is as confused as we are. But here is my question to you, SSP Lindsey. Do you think the police force has the time, the resources, and the power to investigate arrest, and charge persons who are said to be a part of criminal organizations. And even the teeth, because some of the laws that we have in Jamaica, there, I said it last week and I'll say it again. Some of the laws we have in Jamaica are very gummy. They have no teeth, they can't bite. They scare you until it's time.
All right. So let me start by saying we don't have a perfect police force. We don't have all the resources that we need. There are many things that we need. But as it stands now, we are using the resources that we have to be doing the very things you ask about. We continue to lock up persons. We continue to investigate the cases. I mean, there are a couple of cases that we have worked on that we make inroads in a short while. I'm awaiting a report for an update and a case
Mm-hmm.
where they have been just investigating, and we will be clearing up a couple of murder cases on that matter. But I just wait to get the official confirmation. But so we continue because in the last 4 years or 5 years or so, the JCF, we have embarked on a significant transformation process. And
Yeah.
part of that transformation was really to have a look at ourselves and to look at the weaknesses and the gaps in our systems and to try to fix them. We saw gaps in our investigative capability. So we put things in place, additional training, changed the way how we did some things to become more robust. We had gaps
Mm-hmm.
in our intelligence capability, and we have invested in that to fix that. Technology is what's driving everything, and we have done significant work in technology to the extent where it's a branch by itself that's dealing with all the technological products. So I don't know how much you follow Jamaica now. We have our e-ticketing system. No longer can you try to hide away, because no longer the police officer is going to call down station to find out if there's a warrant. It's right at his
Mm-hmm.
fingertip. So once you put in your driver's license or you put in your name or your, it's going to bring up all the story that we have. So those persons with those hundreds of unpaid tickets and thousands of unpaid tickets, now you're showing up, because once you get
Mm-hmm.
into that, so we're using technology. But of course, with all of that, we can't, there's a people side of the business that needs to be supported, because with technology and with our laws, not all our laws are current. So some of them were made long before technology. I know that there's a thrust to modernize some of the laws to make them
Yes.
more compatible and to provide solutions in 2022 and beyond, but we're not there yet. So what you find is that we still rely on people who have information and people who know things to share with us what's going on in the community. And look here, I don't want to hear the story that you don't trust the police, because you don't have no police walking around and looking at innocent people and shooting them and killing them, robbing them, and all of that. Those are some odd situations, and in most instances that happen, we lock up our own and we get rid of them. So,
Boy,
She has said
because
a lot.
she said a lot.
Yes.
SSP, you said a lot, because I was just about to say, get nobody a come and attack and inform, because them are gonna say them not trust
Trust the
police, man, not
police.
trust
Yes.
police, man. I said this last week, the week before. I said, I have to rephrase it, so it's not verbatimly, but the theology or the mentality of informer for they need to stop, and that's what we don't have a lot of persons. We don't have a lot of informers. Which for me is shocking. You know the person will kill the other person, but you're afraid to talk. No, sir, I'm gonna tell you so the other person killed them.
And
because
that leads me to what SSP was saying, because I was saying, she gave a response that we don't have any reason to say that we don't trust the police. But here you find a number of persons still saying that they don't trust the law enforcement officers. So what what is it that you have in place to gain the trust of the citizens? I mean, do you have something in place that you would utilize to say, all right, we need to work on this so we can gain the trust of our citizens, that they know that they can come to us, and when they come and share information, it is confidential, it is kept, and their identity is not exposed, and they are not exposed to any form of danger. Because that is what some of the rationale why some persons are saying that they don't trust the police, because they fear, that, I mean, they will be exposed, and they put their lives at risk. And so, I mean, this informer, I mean, thing, as Erraldo talk about, yes, I'm in support that people need to come out and say what is, but people are still fearful of sharing information with the police. I mean, do you have any plans in place, or do you have a system in place, or some, I mean, educational campaign to look at, how we can get the citizens to trust us and share
Yeah.
information with us?
All right. So, for me, I think this argument sometimes about I don't trust the police is a crop out, and I think it's an old narrative that people use because invariable. There's no doubt that the Jamaica Constabulary Force has a perception problem. So the Constabulary Force, and that is something that as we modernize and we revamp, we're changing because most of the people who will tell you that I don't trust the police, they have never had a personal encounter with a police, maybe during a traffic stop if they drive. So their trust is developed based on something that they have heard some persons say. And then you have some persons all over, persons in academia, persons who are kind of professionals will come and say you don't trust the police, because one of the things that annoys me a lot is that everybody who is not a security expert becomes an expert, and they don't trust the expert. We are the expert in law enforcement. We recognize that as a reality where people will say things, they will give information to the police, and sometimes it's not even the police that they give the information to. They talk about what they know in the community in a general way. So even the very persons who are there committing the crime and relatives and so on, because none of the persons who are committing these murders are aliens, They are somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's brother, somebody's sister, husband, wife, etc. So most of the things that happen, somebody knows, but they're not talking. What we have done as a safeguard is that we have created systems that you just provide the information and the detail. We never ask you who you are. We don't ask you where you live. We don't need to know your identity. We need the information. So when you give that bit of information, it is up to you if you want to be rewarded for it, because it's a reward system that we encourage peer persons. And we have not had any reports on this Crime Stop program where you call 311 and report things, tell us where the guns are. Let's start there. Since you don't want to give up the persons, let's give up the guns, because without the machine, without the tool of choice to kill and create mayhem, because we're on a campaign now, gun gangs, gunmen. That's the campaign we are on. So tell us where the guns are. Let's first reduce their ability to commit crime by taking away the means. It's a tool of choice.
SSP, I have to say, one, I have had my fair share of encounters with police officers. And I've never really had most of them, it was some driving incident. And I think the one time I told a police officer, I said, "Do not shout at me, sir." I was like, "You don't shout at me." And that's the only time I had a problem per se. But there's something that I love about JCF that they're doing now. It just caused me to crack up a couple of days ago when I was looking at a tweet, I think by the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and it says, "Is your competition," like not verbatimly, but it's like, "Is your competition making your life hard? Give them up." So if you know who, Miss Geraldine, if you know who is a competition in the next neighborhood, they know who's the gang leader. Give them up, because someone make your life hard. I'm like, who is working in the communication and advertisement unit? I love you people.
That's coming out of my office. I have the brightest minds, and I see the trend, and they'll say, "Oh, we don't have a PR machinery. We do all of our communication, because guess what happened? We can't continue to do the same old things and expect to get the same results." So we know that a lot of the people that we are talking to, they're not in mainstream media. They are on social media. When you put a lot of words out there, they're not reading one thing. So we have to create the message. So, it's funny if you saw the Valentine's Day one where to give up your ex or your partner for Valentine's, because what we want is for people to give us the information about the troublemakers.
Yeah.
Those are the only people we are interested in. We're not so concerned about, we are concerned about the good citizens in a different way, but for this particular campaign, the guns. So a lot of the murders that we are seeing are reprisals and counter reprisals. So if you give up your competitor, give up your rival, then you'll be a little safer. because they
Yeah.
can't be safe as long as you have people at odds, because we have a violence problem, you know. When you look and to see that all the other, well, thank God as we speak, we are seeing reduction in murder, but we have a violence problem and a murder problem because there's this obsession with guns and gangs
Yeah.
and violence.
And with that
Uh,
said about the safety, when we look at the pandemic, I want to get to that. My colleague who co-hosted week before last made a statement and it caused everybody to crack up. But she said, you know, we talk about the increase if we thought crime increased during the pandemic. And I mean, we could all agree, but we want to hear your perspective that the crime did increase. And she was sharing that, of course, it would have increased because the crime minister said, "Tana, yeah, yeah, so everybody know everybody there." You know, and we made fun of it. Everybody know where everybody's at, so yes, crime increased. But what is your take on the whole increase in crime during this pandemic? What do you think would have been some factors that
yeah.
contributed to that, the increase of crime and violence during the pandemic?
Yeah, interesting perspective, because the all over, and it's not just confined to Jamaica, where you have high incidents of violence and all of that. You see right across the world increase in crime. There are some crime, overall crime did not increase, so like property crime went down. There are some other types of crime that we did see increases, and we could understand because everybody home knows, so nobody can break into anybody's house so easily and so on. But some of the violent crimes, and it is because of the nature of our violent crimes here in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the persons were at odds. And we say this all the time, that the average Jamaican person is safe in Jamaica than probably some countries that we go to all the time. Because we don't have a system where somebody is just running wild and just killing people like that. Most of the murders are confined to gang related activities. There's a direct link to gang and the gang culture, the reprisal culture. So it's either their rivals, it's either their own gang members who cross them,
Mm-hmm.
it's either a relative or a connection to a gang member who crossed them, that they're at, you can't catch Quaco, you catch him short, that kind of situation. So when you have the pandemic now, so in other words, it's not like person from St. James is coming to have conflict with somebody in Clarendon or Manchester or anywhere. It's the same set of persons who went to the same church as kids in Sunday school. They went to the same primary basic school, the same primary school. They went to the same high school. They eat out of them one another granny pot. Those are the same people who are killing each other. So in the context of a past, and how they survive outside of a pandemic is that they commit the crime and they move to another area and they cool out for a while and things get normal and they move back in and all of that. In a pandemic where restriction was pretty much, movement was pretty much restricted. So not a lot of persons could move around. So persons who had their whole long time rivalry, they know exactly where to find the person who they are in conflict with. They know exactly where to find the person. So it's not like they're going anywhere. Remember, it's a zinc fence that separates them, or a
Yeah.
road across the street. So they just stay and they look out because of the appetite for violence. If I could find a magic wand that I could just wave to get our people to just resort to other alternatives other than violence, because they're violent, and because of this love for violence and dominance and control, they do the crime, they make a lot of money from crime, they buy lots of guns and they stock up, because when they have a gun, they have power. It's the gun that gives them power over another gun. It moves away now from the gun to the types of gun. We
Yeah.
are seizing more AK-47, M16 high-powered rifle now than before, because it's no longer a bragging right to have a pistol, a 9mm Glock. That's nothing anymore. You know, there was a time you said 38, they said 38 is ratchet knife, you know, so you wouldn't find a gangster so easily with a 38 unless they are a specific type of person who know why they carry a .38 revolver. But pistol was the main weapon we were seizing. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
seizing so many high-powered weapons because it's bragging right and it's violence and it's control and territory.
We have an increase, and I'm not in the police force, so all my we have an increase might just be hypothetical, but I want to believe that we have an increase of guns for trade. I don't know what people are trading, but you rightfully said it. We back in the day it was pistols and 38. Now we are having guns. We're not even the JC, if I know if them have them gun, the bazooka and all sort of gun. May I hear fire? No, you can distinctly say, you know, one police a fire that shot there.
Mhm.
I have heard it many times when somebody say, a police gun that a gunman gun. Police fire pie pie and gunman fire brook brook brook. I've heard it. I assume that Miss Garwood would hear it too. When especially when they're in the inner city, them say, a police gun that. What are we doing to even clamp down? How are people getting guns into the island? Faith Thomas, another counseling psychologist, says, what do you see as the solution to reprisal killing? Because we find that now happening because of the Tanaya Yard thing. We find reprisal killing. You do something for me, I'll do it 10 years ago. SSP, no me get the time for have revenge. What do you think is a solution? What do you see as a solution to reprisal killing?
So the first solution to reprisal killing that would help us and the community and the people is to remove the threat from the community as quickly as possible. So when a person commits a violent act and we get the report, we
Mm-hmm.
respond. So if we were able to go into that community and apprehend that perpetrator, we would be saving some lives, because person will feel better to know that the person is in police custody. And you might find that once we start apprehending the actors, then that's the first step to cut down on the culture.
Yeah.
We also need to find ways of getting across to some of these persons means and way alternative to violence. How do you resolve simple dispute? And this is where it's not really a police role, that really, but this is where now you can have other NGOs, psychologists, counselors, pastors, you name it, can come up on board as part of our community safety outreach. We have a
Yeah.
program that is called the Proactive Violence Interruption Strategy. And that was designed to reduce the incidence of reprisal killing. And how it works, that once there's a shooting, so we can predict, because we do a lot of data. We have our data, we have good intelligence, we have good information.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the actors at the community level, that we have sufficient that we can actually go in and lawfully remove them from the space. So what you find is that you have a killing, we anticipate, we know that's going to be likely a reprisal, because he's a gangster, he's a top man, well
Yes.
connected, and people them have to show us that, oh, we're not soft, we're not backing down, so we're gonna have to go kill 3 people because you did only kill 1 or 2. That's how they rationalize things in their heads. So in a situation like that, now our PVs, proactive violence interruption strategy, the team would go in, and we usually have some pastors. I remember back in the days, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we had a strong support from NCU. So from NCU, where a couple of the professionals there and pastors and other persons had the ministers fraternal. And then we would go into the community and we would engage a family that's grieving, and we would engage the supporters around them, with
Mm-hmm.
the intention is to calm them down, check the levels, level the vibes, give them a little nice talk, pray with them, provide them a little comfort. And then you have the police with them, the different persons going. And there are times when they know the perpetrator, and if they tell us who the perpetrators are, then our next move is to get them out of the community. There are times when they don't want to tell us who the perpetrators are because they want to take the law into their own hands. They want that revenge. So it's very complex, but early intervention. So
Yeah.
early information about the perpetrator, that's very useful. We know lives, somebody's life is going to be saved there. Early intervention is also a good solution. But I mean, that's like, because even having gone there now and removed that threat from the community, if we're not getting the people who saw and who know to come now and support us so that we can have a case to put before the court, then we're going to have to keep them for 48 hours and then we have to release them back. 48 hours is not sufficient time to cool off a man who is angry, because when you make up your mind to kill somebody,
Yep.
once the opportunity presents itself, you're gonna carry out the act.
That is true. So Superintendent, you said a lot. Are we talking about in relation to this, the Peace Management Initiative?
That's a different program,
That's a
but
different
that's
program.
a different program that we support it to some extent, but that's a different program, the Peace Management Initiative. But that's part of their as the term suggests, peace management.
Peace
We are
management, yeah.
supposed to go into the community and get warring factions and
Mm-hmm.
rival gang members and
Mm-hmm.
families to come together to reduce, because you can have, sometimes you will see with these intervention, you have a lull, people start coming back together. I know
Yeah.
what's useful is when you have the local police interacting at the community level, because for one is that you're also building a network, and by building that network and building a relationship, you're also building trust. So you will go to community and them don't trust no police, but they trust this
Yeah.
police. So you have to build that base of trust and so on. And do I get it, Erraldo?
Erraldo, yes.
Yes, you made a point earlier when you made reference to the types of weapons that we are seeing out there. And make no joke about it. These guys, they don't have any concern whatsoever to engage the police. They feel within themselves that they have superior gun power. They have big guns and they have lots of ammunition. They have no issue, and they do it
Mm-hmm.
all the time in shooting at the police and the soldiers. Now, we are an organization that is trained to protect people and to protect ourselves. And I don't want these persons to believe that the police and soldiers are going to roll over and die and not take appropriate action and
Yeah.
become victims of these individuals, when we are the ones with the training. They might have the superior guns, but we have the superior training. We are professionals. We have our rules of engagement, and they're going to take on the security forces. And then they expect a cohort of people now to come out and bawl for them because they are victims. Nobody's concerned about the family that they just killed. That
Thank
family is
you.
not victim. The message is that if you continue to engage the security forces, we're going to have fatal encounter. There are going to
Yeah.
be fatalities. Unfortunately, sometimes the fatalities on the security side, sometimes it's on the other side, but really and truly, the security forces are trained to defend themselves, and they have the training, and with the training, they should not end up being the victims. So
That
yeah, so don't expect to take on the security force get hurt. It's not gonna
I
happen.
agree. I agree.
I definitely
SSP,
agree.
before Erraldo asks the next question, I want to ask, you mentioned something earlier about NCU. I want to know, so if the church want to engage you or want to work programs with you, I mean, who do they contact? I mean, where they go for that? So suppose a church would want to engage the police in some community development program to help reduce the crime in that particular community. Where do they go? Or how they go about facilitating that process with the JCN?
All right, so I mean, Jamaica is said to have more churches than any other person in the
Per
world.
square
So we
mile.
have per square mile than any other place in the world. So we have but that's really kind of an interesting situation. We have so many churches, more churches than
Yes,
everybody
it
else.
is. It
Yet we
is.
have more crime and violence than anybody else. So what happened? I'm not sure. So they need some.
Theologically, we'll say wherever there is good, wherever there is God, the enemy will increase his power. Wherever there is God. So if we have 10 churches, the enemy is going to try his very best to outmatch 10 churches.
All right, so that answers the question. But so the church, and but however, only in cases when a few pastors or a few senior church people mess up and you get a bad rap. But the church continues to be a respected entity at the community level. So
Mhm.
if you're a church community, the first stop is your local police station. Don't wait for them to drive around and with loud hailers and bullhorns and invite church people to come on board. Once you recognize a problem in your community, reach out to your local police officer. I want to help. We have done some great work, transformed. One of my most rewarding projects that I've worked on was the Grant Spend project. And Grant Spend, which was coined international CNN carried the story as the killing ground of Jamaica, is among the safer communities in St. Andrew, in that belt there. And that was as a result of a lot of partners coming together and citizens making a decision that we're just tired of killing each other and putting their posters on walls.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in, and it was the ministers fraternal that led on a number of the initiatives where the group of pastors come together. Forget about the denomination. It doesn't matter which day you worship, because the criminals commit crime every day.
Every day.
Every day, they don't take a day off. So it is important that you get to your local police. You can move it from your local police. You can go to your divisional superintendent or a senior superintendent and say, look here, we are ready to help. What is it that we can do? Because we still believe, that sometimes when you catch some of these youngsters who are carrying these big guns, it's a good dose of prayer they need, They need a good dose of prayers and some realignment, because they didn't grow up in an environment where they were exposed to anything other than violence and guns and so on. So they see it as a way out. Yeah. They stay home and they scam. They don't want to go back to school now, because everybody new term, they become choppers. So that
them a chopper.
Yeah, them chopper. So they don't want to go back to school. So when they're supposed to be home doing online school, they're not doing the online school. They're chopping, robbing people, scamming people. Then them get enough money from the scam, and then they buy a gun. Then they start make more money from the scam, and now their colleagues come and rob them. So it is a complex. But evangelist, you just have to reach out to your, and what happened is that, what I don't like is that we tend to like projects. We like projects. We want programs. Because project is really 9-day wonder. Something happen and everybody on board, everybody. Yeah. And by the time we start seeing the result, now everybody gone back to sleep. Nobody watching the neighborhood anymore. Nobody helping to solve. So we want programs that we sustain over a very long period. So we resurrect one, and we bring back one from the brink of wherever he was going. We're replacing them with another one. I don't think that is going to be the panacea to save the world. But sometimes, if you save one, is the gang leader that is what's going to create a tribe of people going to kill, rob, and destroy.
Yep.
So if sometimes it's just one we need to save, we look for the influencers who are influencing the masses to follow and try to work. Because sometimes when you see them leaders start go down, them say, but hold on, him getting soft, not so powerful like how him they look, man. So it's a combination of everybody coming on board, but we can't sit in our little corner and say, look there, JCF, we're the poster people for crime and violence and murders. And like my commissioner always say that a lot of people talk about crime, especially when you have some persons who they have never heard a gunshot in their life. And every opportunity and every effort that's been made by the security forces to get things back to normal, because I don't believe that we're a lost state, we can come back. But they're the ones who, because them have ear time, and they're the ones who coming out now to criticize. They're not putting forward any solutions because they're not security experts, but they have a say. And the only thing you're here, they're calling about the rights of these individuals whose rights are not even being violated. Their rights are not being violated, but when you kill 5 and 6 people and you wipe out a family, and then the law get a hold of you, then you start hearing about rights. And I think that is why a lot of people have issues with some of these organizations, because you don't balance it. I believe that there is a role for people to advocate for the rights of people. But I personally view, and it's a view that I hold, that the most important right that a person have is the right to life. You have a right to life. Yes. And when you violate that right, it can't reverse. When you kill somebody, that's it. So why you should advocate for somebody who couldn't recognize that that is something that I have, that when you take it, you can't redeem, I can't get it back. So all of a sudden now they become victims, and they try to use that victim status and this.
Yeah.
No, it's not right. That's not right. I don't think that's how the rights come with responsibility. And
sorry to cut you, SSP. But you said a lot of things that I definitely agree with, especially the thing about project versus programs.
Totally agree.
Believe me, I agree with that. I'm big Um, Geraldine was my undergraduate lecturer. I always say this. In fact, she's the reason why I'm doing a master's. And she's the reason, one of the reasons why I'm stressing out myself doing two masters at the same time.
Congratulations, man. I
but
just
but
completed one and I'm not doing nothing else.
Oh Lord! Well, congratulations to you. Imagine my stress. But this question is very very important for me to ask you, because I remember I had my first distasteful interaction with the police force a couple of years ago. I was still at JTS doing completing my undergraduate degree in theology and counseling, and I went to the police station at that time, SSP. I signed up a form to join the police force because I wanted to be a detective with the experience of a psychologist. I wanted to be a proper investigator and all of that. And I went to be frank, I watched a lot of Law and Orders. I wanted to be a psychologist within
Yes,
JCF.
bye.
And so I went to the police station in the downtown area. And I remember I said to them, when I complete my degree and whatever, is there a unit for counselors and stuff? And the person looked at me and said, them no wanna we don't want a counselor up here. We don't want a counselor in this and all. And I felt so offended, because I'm like, for years I'm studying to be a counselor, to come into the police force to help y'all. So this is my question. Is there a specific unit in the police force that is designed to provide forensic psychology and even counseling and clinical psychology to persons who are considered to be felons? Do we have a unit where, when you go in to do investigation and interrogation, you actually have a forensic psychologist with you, or a clinical psychologist, to know that some of these people, they commit the crime, but really and truly there's a mental disorder that is behind it, or there's some emotional problem, there's something behind it that we have to find out, that we can't just lock them up only because some of the time, SSP, we lock up these people, but we don't deal with the mental state of these people. And so when we lock them up and them spend them time and come back out, all them do are come back out even more angry than how they went in. Do we have a unit in the force that is directed at fixing the psyche of these criminals?
All right.
Personally.
Okay, so we don't have a psychologist at the time when we are doing it. Where you have the psychologist and those persons, you have them in the prisons. So if they get convicted, they get that kind of support. So we, when we interact with them during the investigative process, we recognize that there's a mental issue there, because mental illness is real, and some persons you can't look and tell, but you will know if a person is coherent, or a family member or somebody might say this person has an history of some kind of mental illness. Then you put the person before the court, and then the judge will order that the person go for some psychiatric evaluation, some psychosocial support, and based on the findings, they make a determination as to how they proceed with the matter. Sometimes they send them to a facility to get treatment, get sorted out before they can come back for trial. Sometimes they are not even fit enough to stand up to a trial, but it's at the back end that they get that kind of support. But if during the trial or at that stage, the magistrate can rule that this person be given that kind of support.
Yeah.
And back to you could join the force, because we use counselors and psychologists in our chaplaincy department. We use them. We have what we call peer counselors, where, because don't bother feel like the police them don't come under stress every day, Every day you go out there and people shooting at you with big guns, and
we know, they do.
is your family and your children and everybody just crossing your eye. Because every day a police officer in Jamaica go out, you don't have to go back home because a traffic stop can turn deadly. So when you have those, so many times our officers, because people might believe that when you're in a shooting incident and a fatal shooting, they believe you're going to pop champagne. They don't pop champagne. Sometimes some of the officers, it has a psychological toll on them, because they're human beings. Most of our officers don't pray every day not to get into an encounter where they have to shoot somebody. But it happens because of the violent society. So you could work there, and it's not too late, do the double masters and come. We have a graduate entry program that you can come into the officer corps straight. So you're fast track, so you can do that. You could also work at the training facility. So there are many places. And guess what? You could work in the CIB.
Think it through, Erraldo. Think it through.
I am thinking, and I'm like, there, Miss Guard, I'm doing way too much already. But I'm thinking about it because it's still something. It's still something that's very passionate. Somebody says, Erraldo, you can let's see. There are two questions. But I'm thinking about it, SSP. Honestly, I do respect the police force, but this question, it's good to even see my brother asking this question. This is my older brother, by the way, Kaswe and Budhan. He says, and he lives in a whole different country, very far from Jamaica, like 12 hours flight from
You mean
Jamaica.
with global? You mean with global? We gone global?
We're gone global because he's viewing all the way
Yes,
from
we're global. Yes.
He's viewing all the way.
I'm gonna get famous today.
He's viewing all the way from Dubai, and he says, how are the police being proactive in trying to prevent crimes? Are they thinking ahead of the criminal actors using the data and evidence that they have?
Certainly. That's how we have been able to save lives. Every year we interrupt at least 400 murders. Like, we get intel that they're going to kill somebody, and we go to the yard and telling you. So it's our intelligence and that's how we're able to interrupt a lot of the murders. So we do, but criminality, the criminal network is an institution all by itself. They are always planning. So you develop a strategy and this work, but I think it's the robust development of our intelligence capability coupled with our investigative capability. We're getting better results, and of course technology. So yes, we are.
Love that. So Faith Thomas says that I can go and work for the Medical Services Branch Psychology Unit. She say, you don't have to be a police per se, but they may help the police. So, as long as I get to use psychology. But I've watched a lot of shows, and I know that Hollywood can smear reality a bit. Because I'm big SSP, I'm big on anything that's psychology based and criminology and victimology. I'm big on that. So I watch all major police shows, and one of them is having people going undercover. Now, I don't know if I would want to go undercover in any of the Jamaican gangs, because them just seemed. In the first episode of talking about crime and violence, I make relation to the case that was at the Supreme Court with the Klansman gang, and as you said, the criminal entity is an organization that is, I want to say, it's robust. It is very developed. People will think that these criminals, they might be stupid to go kill somebody, but the structure of the organization in a gang is so it is even much better than most business places. When I listen to the court case, and here they are listing who is foot soldier, who in charge of this, who do the lookout, and I'm like, really and truly, it's like I send in an application, may I be a foot soldier in this gang? How is it that the police, because I do believe the police aren't fools, and so we know, and I know that there are probable causes, and you can't just go in and say, all right, I'm gonna lock you up because me know say you're a criminal. You have to have some level of some warrant or something. But do we have like an inside, don't give out the secret, but does the police force on a general believe in this thing called undercover?
Undercover, yes.
But if you're watching the same case that we do everything in law enforcement in the JCF that can bring safety and security and justice to the Jamaican people. So some of our strategies we don't talk about, but we do a lot of work. And as I say, is that part of what's hampering us now is the people side of business. But I'm sure that we're getting good results from some of the newer laws. The newer laws give us less reliance on people because people are concerned about being branded as informers. So you have like our DNA legislation that you say it wasn't you, so what your DNA doing here, what your DNA doing here? So is you alone have this DNA? So there are newer laws that are allowing us to really do some of the CSI things that you do. And I can tell you that we have the competence and the capability. We don't have it all, but trust me, we are doing cases. We are solving cases that in the past those cases have been like probably impossible to solve, but we are solving them without eyewitness support. But technology, and sometimes with
Yeah.
the aid of the technology now, we get the people support. So it's important that we continue to push ahead.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to ask the SSP. I'm curious to know how you recruit your members to the police force because I am wondering if it's more easier now than back in the day to get into the force. But do these young men and women have to go through some assessment before they join the force? Because we have seen in the past couple of years a number, and not a lot, because I know some it most times it's the minority, but we have seen a number of police officers who have, I mean, been committing crimes themselves. You know, even their police uniforms are they're aiding to some of the gangs in executing some of the crimes.
Yeah.
And you tend to wonder from a psychological perspective if the rationale for this person entering this profession, because this profession is to really protect and serve others. So why they would want to go in there to I mean and become a part of hurting others. So is there a system in place? How do you, I mean, recruit, I mean, these young men and women? I mean, do they go through assessments? You know, what do you have in place? I mean, to take in persons who want to join and become a part of the police.
All right. So, yeah, that's a very important point you raised there. And I'll be the first to tell you that I am convinced that it would be impossible to have a 14,000 strong organization where we recruit all our members from Jamaica and end up with a perfect force. But having said that, though, is that we do have robust mechanism internally that once we identify them, we get rid of them. But the recruiting process for the JCF is probably one of the most robust and stringent, but yet still some slip through because so they start by you have to be able to pass an entrance test. Then you pass that test and you have to go through interviews, you go through assessment, you go through physical, you go through medical. Then you have to do a psychometric test to see where your head is. If you're ready for policing, if you can manage the rigor. So you go through that. Then you also have to do a polygraph. Not many organizations in Jamaica do polygraph. We polygraph all our first applicants that we're going to take in the system. So you have to be polygraphed, and then you wait to see what the result is, and then you have to go through another assessment. And if you're selected, no, then you go in training. And even whilst in training, they continue to observe because a lot of persons are dismissed in training because there are things that you never found in the antecedent. So you get an antecedent. And this is where a lot of the times, the same people who ask for a good police force, they want a perfect police force. But when the investigators go out now to do the background checks on the people, they know that the people them have fault. These people have fault. These people are not outstanding citizens that I want to put in uniform. But you contribute to the process by giving all glowing feedback. Oh, nice boy, altar boy, go to church only on Saturday or Sunday. Perfect. And it's, you see when we come, because you know how you have teeth in the police force, so we want to have to create the police force that we want to serve us. So when the investigators come around, because usually they come around and they will just come and ask some question, they'll go incognito too sometimes just to ask people, you know, so and so. First of all, them say strange people, then them get nice and start pretty up story because they think they're gonna go on farm work or going on some foreign things, and so they pretty up story. And so a lot of times, you know, a different part of the system, different people are
Yes.
creating problems, but we have a very robust system. And you get in and you have a 2-year probationary period where during that time, so a lot of persons, if you have a criminal conviction, more than likely your prince, we will find that out because you can't get a clean record. But there are persons who fire gun before them join the police force, they steal before them and rob before they join the police force. They were never caught. So that person in our recruiting process is a saint. nice, clean record, young man from the country, and after you get that glowing feedback from the citizens, you must recruit him. But during the
Yeah.
process now, you start getting the information that no, this one is bad for business. This one is just waiting to get the authority
Mhm.
or the uniform to expand the criminal network. So how we lock them up? We lock them up very often.
I hope we do. I honestly do hope we lock these people up. My final question. By the way, love talking to you, SSP. Boy, would I still not chat with you.
It's
Um,
true.
I'll off ear, off anything, just sit and talk with you. How do you think the government and citizens can work together to help the police force apprehend criminals? Yeah.
So they say the government, I don't know, because what about the
But
government?
but I
Yes, and
know that
you should say
JCF is a
citizens.
branch. I know that JCF is a branch of the
Government.
government, but I'm now talking like the legislators, the persons who make the laws. And I said this already, SSP, with all due respect to JCF. We have some laws that are very gummy. They don't have any teeth, and some police officers can't really effectively do their work because you lock up somebody and you have to release them because something. How can the legislators and the citizens come? My biggest problem in the SSP is citizens who know these people. I maybe that's why the Lord don't send me in the police force, because me I lock up the mother who knows her son a criminal, Me I lock up she because she wash the blood clothes. I mean, I lock up the cousin, and that is the thing. We have these persons in the inner city who know the criminals, and them cover it up because of them little baby. I mean little son, and him I got change. Yeah, I got change, but him need to get locked up at the same time and him a change. That's just my thing. So how can the police, how can the community and
The
legislators help the
legislators support
police?
it. So the first thing I would love to see is a change in mindset from seeing crime and violence as a police problem. As long as we see crime and violence as a police problem, we're not going to see themselves as part of the solution because a police problem. So you just witnessed a man kill 7 people. All 2 of them are your cousin and relative too, but you're not saying anything to the police because the police need to go solve that. You're not playing your part.
Yeah.
You're not playing your part. So we have to start seeing this violent thing as a Jamaica problem that's hindering and impeding Jamaica at every step of the way. The
Mm-hmm.
criminals let us can't have a good healthcare system because how much percentage of the treatment has to go to criminals who are shoot them one another. So you and I with little self can't get no good healthcare. They come and they overrun all of the other things and so on, preventing the people who really need the support. They take up 90% of the resources that they provide for law enforcement because we are constantly have to be putting resources to get them. What we also need from our legislators are laws, and I agree with you, Erraldo, that people respond to consequences. So if there are a lot of people who commit these heinous crimes, if they knew or they were sure that the consequences would be so severe that
Yeah.
they're not gonna get no third and second chance and kill people and go before the court and get bail and come back out and kill 6 more people before your next trial date, then they would. So we want to see them giving us laws. Since it's our thing now, is JC crime is JCF thing. Give the JCF members the laws that because we are just the start of the process, the whole justice system. We start it goes to court, and then it goes to the correction service.
Yeah.
So I want to see at the start, since we're at the start, give us the legislation that empowers us and give us the lawful authority to apprehend, put our cases together with the kind of legislative support that when we build that case now, then the law is there that when the matter goes to trial, the judge that sits on that matter can't be wishy-washy with it, because the judge now
Mm-hmm.
is empowered by the legislation that clearly states how the judge operates. So even if the judge feel like today was lenient day or today, but if a case is proven, you know that you have a gun, you have an illegal gun, you plan to kill people. So you're gonna go away for a very long time. So if your
Yeah.
cousin give you a little gun to keep, you're going to say, look here, me not going anywhere, no, so you carry it elsewhere, I go give it to the police. So because of the consequences so severe, then each of the systems supporting it. So sometimes you say we are disappointed because of the sentence that they get and how they feel that they get off light. In some instances, they really, really get off light. But in some instances, when you talk to the judges, the law doesn't allow them the power to do certain things. So, in other words, punishment don't match the crime.
Yeah.
Punishment look lightweight and wishy-washy, and the crime serious. So, we want to get those kind of legislative support that will do it. And then we have too many persons because them not get long sentence because the law not designed to give them long sentence. So 3 years time they're coming back on the road. Sometimes them don't even go to no prison. They get suspended sentence. They're back.
Yes.
They're back to their old ways. I want to see now we do our part, and yes, the court does their part, and then now the correctional department now you need to fix that up now. That if a man go to prison, that him get him severe punishment, but at the same time he goes through rehabilitation. So when he comes back out now, he's a better man and the experience, he's a deterrent. So him don't want to go back to that place because we're going to get
Yeah.
long. I don't want to do it a change. So we would love to see a lot of effort being done at the back end now in rehabilitating these people. Because sometimes, them young, they're human beings, them follow fashion. Them never really have the wicked heart, but them follow fashion and getting at the bad company. But if them get somebody for just reset them their direction, they can become good citizens. Some people can
Yeah.
get a second chance, and some of these are so young and impressionable because the parents them want a beating to.
Yes,
The parents them want a beating to.
yes.
Just give me the belt. Give me the belt. Let me beat them.
No, I'm not promoting violence at all. Not promoting violence.
Well, this is called discipline.
Are you two ready? But it's just that sometimes as parents we fail our children, not instilling the core values very
Yes,
early,
yes,
and they just get into the wrong crowd.
That is
So
true.
there are many things that impact a person. That is why I believe in intervention, early intervention. I'm one for the psychosocial support. I believe if we can change one or two, we're not going to change the world. And so, what I love to see is more people stop the talking and start coming on board as partners. Don't wait till JCF to send out no invitation to come and just say, here I am, I can offer. We have domestic violence, the DV centers, because the violence in the homes. And we have volunteer counselors, and they say on a Monday I can give 2 hours. We'll schedule a couple or a family in crisis, so you give you 2 hours in whatever time you have available that you can volunteer,
Yeah.
because they don't have no money to pay for this kind of support. So but you're volunteer, so as part of your corporate or your social responsibility, you're trying to impact somebody.
Yeah.
I am very busy and I find the time to volunteer sometimes, because sometimes I have to take off the police hat and put on another hat and just reason with these young people because they need help.
Yeah.
Good help.
Jo- You know, we're out of time, but as I said, boy, you said a lot, SSP. No wonder you're a head of communications. You know what to, you know what to say, man. You know what to say.
You're
But
well
I'm
informed and
sincere.
you're and
Every word is coming. I'm sincere because I
I
love
know
I
we
I
see that, we
see
sense
that.
that, we sense that, and you have really, I mean, opened our eyes, and I believe that the viewers, we have learned. I have learned a lot. I was listening because I like to be informed too, and you have really, I would say encourage us to join with you with the JTS. And I also want to encourage us from the church perspective, from the community perspective, because we want Jamaica to be a safe place for all of us to live. I don't believe everybody should be running away and leave our little island and say we want to migrate because of crime. I mean, crime is everywhere. And I guess
Yeah,
because we
it
are
is.
smaller, we're feeling the impact because it's more closer to home, you know. But I would say to all of us, get on board and support, I mean, the members of the JCF as they help to protect and serve, And I will call again on our parents, just the other day, our church had a parenting workshop and it really went, I would deem it an excellent workshop. And we talked with the parents, we interacted with them, we prayed with them, We had a graduation for them, and they were proud, and we felt proud as the church, and we have committed ourselves to continue to journey and work with these set of parents to make our community that our church is a part of a safe place to live and a safe place to want to come. And that persons can go back out, see the community where young men can go to different streets and play a game of football, without
Yeah.
being feeling fearful, And so I like the fact that you also speak to our parents, because I mean it is coming from the family systems, and we have to fix the family systems as well and get to the
That
root
is
of the matter. And then we also need the church to come into play where we can, encourage our young children to become a part of our Sunday school, where they can learn morals and values. It's not to put everybody in a water and baptize them. Everybody pray in a church now, because they feel like once they come, you're going to dip them in the pool, and that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just to tell you that you just need to live right, and we just need to live good and have peace with all men, and that's our aim, and then if you get to know Jesus as the Lord and Savior, that is very good too. And that put the icing on the cake. So I personally want to thank you, on your break, for really committed and coming this evening. You were highly recommended by one of my students, Inspector Colin Johnson. I've had the privilege to facilitate
Oh, Colin.
number, yes, and I lecture a number of them, Pilmar Powell, Maxine Russell Thomas, I think over in Spanish Town there, a number
Those
of
are
the
some
officers.
powerful police officers, I can tell you have done a good
Yes,
job.
they are. Yes, yes,
You
yes.
have
And
done a
I've
good job.
interacted, and I spent a lot of time. I think I taught them in their program most of their courses. I was one of their main lecturer. I mean, at the Jamaica Theological Seminar, and it is. We have to wrap up, but I want to give you my own testimony. SSP, because growing up, I grew up in the inner city, and I never liked the police, and because of my experience, and then my brother was killed, and he was killed by the police, and that just brought this resentment towards the police. And that's why I believe in the old power of forgiveness and how God works. And when I returned from overseas, having studied and came back and began to lecture at the Jamaican Theological Seminar, here I was thrown as the main lecturer for the police. It is there I mended and I healed while interacting with them, and realized that these are real people with real families who have real issues. And as I engage them in learning, and we talk together and share together, I built very good relations with them. And I said, these are people who have a job to do, and we have to give them our support, And I always give God thanks for that, because I have a different perspective now of the police, And so sometimes I see this planted in our minds as people, towards the police. And I mean, we have to strip that from our thought process and say, let us look at these people as real people giving service to the country, just like how we value our teachers, educating us, and we value the doctors, I mean, giving us the medical treatment, and the nurses. We should value our police officers. So thumbs up to you, SSP. I am super proud of you, I mean, and where you're at. And I want to thank you for joining us this evening. That's my little bit, Erraldo.
And I'll be back home for a short time. So SSP, when I come home and I need an autograph, I can say yes, head of communication, sign a book or something. But I want to. I also, I don't think the police force has gotten enough commendation
Yes,
as they should. I don't think you would have gotten enough commendation, because we grew up in a society where people don't like the police, and it's sad to say, but you guys are doing such a great task, and the small amount of bad apples, to me,
yes,
should not overpower the good people that are in the police
right.
force. I have encountered, just like Gigi, have lectured many police officers. Most of them were my classmates,
Yes,
and I would have seen and recognized that these people are real human beings, and they're doing a good job. You guys have a hard task, because one, you have to protect yourself, protect people, and try to not kill off everybody where all are going. You have to, it's like such a it's for me in my head. I don't know how you guys balance it, because I do a lot, but I do a lot in terms of school and study and teach. But you guys are actually out there risking your lives, and I don't think you have been commended much. So I have to say to you, as I said, I listen to Balance Injustice like crazy. It's because when where am I now and classes and all that I can't listen to, but to hear directly from the police force what is happening, it has opened my eyes. And tonight, speaking to you, I pity you don't know, I feel like one of them fanboys there. When meet one of the one of them famous
That's
people
the way
there.
it's SSP.
So me feel honestly because you'll be shocked to know what you would have said tonight has really impacted me in certain ways, because some people
Resonate with
and
me.
other persons probably as well, they wouldn't have known that JCF is actually doing something, because people believe that the police them not do nothing. All them want to do, I just stop you and get a ticket. Marky, I've had my, if you're not gonna run, when I join the police force, I'm not gonna run anything for ticket, you're not gonna see my name come up, but don't let that daunt you. Me pay my ticket them. But
If you pay a ticket, you're good. I mean, traffic offenses are not crime. They are
okay,
offenses.
all right.
Offenses.
I'm not a criminal, but just
Let
But
us break
thank you.
the rule. All right.
But thank you so very much, SSP. I know you're a busy woman. Thank you so very much for taking the time out for talking with us. I love my country very much, and just to put this out there, me no, I no run me runway. If anybody are watching, I mean, tell me there we at Texas I do this. I'm just here to study. By the time me finish studying, I'm coming back because I want to ensure that I can work with Gigi. And when she can boss me around and I can submit my course papers to her and say, this is what I'm going to teach.
You
But
are
thank
coming
you.
to join. I think you are coming back to be the detective that you see at
Look
theater.
here, I SSP. I
You get
am
there. You get there. You
believe
get
me.
there.
I am
Yes.
an ordained minister. I am a guidance counselor. I am a what else we do, Gigi? The amount of something we do. We can work that in, believe me.
He will get it in.
You
He'll get
sound
it
like a
in.
good candidate. You sound like you're well rounded for the
Yes, he
job.
is. He is well rounded for the job.
And you don't have to come in as you don't have to come in as a sworn member too. We have unsworn members that we
Okay,
recruit.
okay.
Professional. We use
You have
professional.
also sparked my interest too. I mean, I can
Right?
look where I can volunteer as well at times. The domestic violence is of concern to me, so I may give a
A couple
couple
hours.
hours towards that. So, as I say, I've learned a lot this evening. I'm saying, I can give some of my time in this era to serve my country as well. So, I want to thank you
Wonderful.
again. Thank you very much, SSP. And
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, thank
Thank
you, thank
you.
you. Yes.
Yes. And I want to say thanks to all the listeners. We have multiple questions coming in, but we can't answer them. No, we're out of time. But thank you to all the listeners. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tips for Behavior Change. And you can listen out. We come back next week, Friday at 7:30 your time if you're in Jamaica and wherever else you are in the world. For my brother, it's probably like 1 a.m. Um, wherever it's 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we have another hot topic that we'll be discussing from the perspective of psychology and theology. My name is Erraldo Budhan, and my co-host and producer, Evangelist Geraldine Garwood. I want to say thanks to our Superintendent of Police and Head of the Communication Unit of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, SSP Stephanie Lindsey. Thank you so very much. Have yourself a great rest
Bye
of the
bye.
evening now. Bye bye.
Thank you. So I'll leave the studio.